Hello world of YouTube and welcome to the fourth and penultimate list for List Week 2024. My picks for the 11 worst albums I spun last year, between icons fumbling the bag, older acts failing to see a successful resurrection, and the occasional newer act also just failing to leave a memorable splash. There was some pretty bad shit that came out this year. There's always going to be stuff that ends up on a list like this. Give it a like if you're excited to see me tear these down once more, and let's get started with... I don't know if it's sort of a sign that the general public kind of feels the same way about this album, but I'm not hearing any songs from Zero on the radio, but I am hearing still a hefty amount of their classics on heavy rotation, which I'm not complaining, because I like classic era Linkin Park, and I think that this sort of shadow of a version of that band that's presented on From Zero doesn't do anything groundbreaking, and for a band that build new bridges, or at least try new things with their old sound, this just feels like a real disservice to their artistic growth. It also shows maybe a bit of lack of faith in this record when in interviews, Mike is not even really promoting this music, he's promoting it as a sort of gateway to them touring the old stuff again with somebody new. Which is just, again, a second sort of slap in the face to, I feel like, their legacy. The album itself isn't doing anything for me, even if it's got sounds that feel like they're really trying to capture the artistry of old Linkin Park. It doesn't hit quite the same because I don't think the heart is there. And that's really a good example of heart needing to be in your art for it to resonate with more people. This feels like a business decision of an album, and it's the worst kind of business decision for an album, in my opinion.
Yeah, crocodile tears, niggas know I'm on a tier that they don't see. My dogs only shed tears and emoji.
Considering where the aftershocks of the beef between Kendrick and Drake sort of ended up at the beginning of this year, it's a good thing J. Cole did pull 6 Minute Drill off of Might Delete Later, but it also sort of kneecaps like half of the intentions of this project, and the other half of what this album is trying to do, generate hype for an album that he seemingly has stopped caring about, has made this project's title all the more apropos, and Cole should honestly just go ahead and delete it because it is later now. There are some moments on here that I enjoy, but even some of those moments are ruined by Cole himself. I'm looking at you, Pi. The stuff that sounds like Cole being Cole is fine enough, but it sounds so idiosyncratic when the other half of the record really has a mission statement that he doesn't feel all that confident in delivering. I hope Cole bounces back with the fall off and that record actually is worth all of these years of hype and promo, but if this is the type of stuff he's really bringing to the fray, I don't know if he's really gonna bow out in any sort of high fashion, guys. I'm gonna be honest.
Got it sewn up, just a nigga creeping on Doug. Tequila in my cup, drink it all, never get enough.
I may have done a redacted on Insano with its sister album Nitro Mega that came out a month later, but that second album, even in, like I said in my original review, had more focus, had a real through line. And while there is an attempt at that on the first Insano, it doesn't feel like it ties well with the out there and underutilized features and sonic concepts and beat choices that Kid Cudi was trying to sort of start this era off with. I just think that it's the worst kind of messy, because you can tell he's trying to really aim for something, and just, at least in my opinion, really failing to hit that idea on its head. He doesn't quite reach the levels of hype that you can tell he's trying to sell, and that's ultimately its biggest misfortune. I still like my redacted to some degree, but I will say even then, it's not a redacted, it's not going to be a redacted that I end up spinning on my own, because out of all of Kid Cudi's discography, this era is one I'm not really wanting to come back to.
So if I get jealous, I can't help it.
When everything I thought it wasn't being cringy and knee-hack and tired, it was boring. And that kind of cocktail is just not something I want to come back to. Talking about a fall from grace as a pop star, the hook spinning on this isn't good. The production is flat as fuck. And the moments where he tries to flip it into a different direction that he's teased in the past don't really do anything for me either. It's the worst kind of attempt at a pop return that I've seen in a hot second. He and the guys of NSYNC should have just gotten their shit further ironed out, their schedules lined up, and done a reunion record. I feel like it would have been a better utilization of Justin's current range. It maybe would have saved him from the crash out that happened that ruined his world tour. This album is just a messy type of late career record that you hate to see from somebody who had such high status, but in all honesty, he probably did it to himself. The few highlights on here and genuinely shocking moments for how much they sort of like reignited the adolescent part of my brain that liked Eminem from a sound perspective. The lows and cringy moments on here further outweigh those and don't make this experience worth it whatsoever. Eminem's trying to both actively, seemingly send his career off into the sunset, reflect on the era of his life that he's casting off, burying an era prior to this that honestly felt like a better growth and adaptation on said horror-inspired roots, and digging up old tracks to try and recapture nostalgia in a way that, while maybe relatively successful, still have some moments where Eminem's cringy Gen X-y side, where he's all edge and no curves, just doesn't hit me at all and any semblance of enjoyment. I really hated spinning this thing when it came out. I know I'm going to do a video talking about it in the context of his discography. I'm not really stoked about that either. Some of the features more carry this record more than M does, and even some of those are dog shit. Another kind of fall from grace from an icon that, while may have its fans, I know some people like this record, I'm certainly not fucking one of them. While I was more into the idea of Static X creating this touching tribute to their long late singer, Wayne Static, and sort of bring together an interesting version of the old band Resurrection via like a ghost singer on Project Regeneration. While I was more into the idea of paying tribute to their late singer, Wayne Static, with old lost recordings that felt like brought together songs sort of just rounded out with the OG band and a phantom singer to help add to some of the sort of mood the band was trying to create on Volume 1 of this series. I'm hoping that it stops with Volume 2, because admittedly, it doesn't feel like it should have gone this far. And there's only a couple nuggets on here that should have been put on the first one and seen as a one last goodbye from a band that never really got the chance to do that because Wayne passed away after the band had broken up. The parts that don't sound like complete ideas originally feel more cobbled together, and like the ghost singer and Tony's vocals kind of have to carry some of these songs in a way that makes them feel a little more slapdash, which is a real shame to see, because Static X, for all of their sort of idiosyncrasies, had a kind of defined personality that I, again, thought was reignited decently on that last one. And this just, similarly to other records I've already talked about, feels like a sort of slap on a legacy in a way that you just hate to see a band do. And unlike Volume 1, there isn't really any time that I've ever felt myself wanting to come back to this, just because even the highlights don't hit as hard as anything that was on the last one. This feels like scraps, and I just hate listening to scraps like this. Like I said in my review, I feel like if Taylor Swift is teeing up for a Taylor's version of Reputation, releasing a record that's overwrought and still tries to delve into the nitty-gritty drama in some of her recent relationships prior to this one with Travis Kelce, this is the type of record that I feel like would be the best to suit leading up to that. And I say that knowing that Reputation isn't one of my favorite Taylor Swift albums, because this is amongst that crop as well. Even with the extended exposure that I had had to it post my review, I still don't think the minimalism that parts of this record lean into don't help enhance her style of songwriting. I think that her style of songwriting really sounds clumsier than ever on a record like this, and the moments that do pop out are few and far between a record that also feels overwrought and overindulgent. I kind of get what she's going for sonically, and I think that especially following a record like Midnight's where she used these atmospheres to better effect, this record just does it far too frequently, where this record sounds like a whole puddled, muddied mess of mush that I still don't have interest in spinning in full anytime soon again.
So when they ask who hurt you, point the finger at myself, but a figure.
I may have dipped my toes into the genre of country more than I typically do in your typical calendar year, but Bill Murray's American Motorsports was absolutely my least favorite of the country/country adjacent worlds. I think that the meldings that are trying to come together on here don't sound good together, and the way that the country stuff is produced to pair with that makes the country stuff sound worse. This may be a new niche lane within music that can see an audience within younger folks or even just fans of heavy music, but I'm definitely not fucking one of them. It has the worst attributes of modern metal mixed with the worst attributes of modern country. Even if it doesn't overstay its welcome, I don't have any interest in any of the sonic palette of this. I don't think the songwriting is all that good on top of that either, and I think that it also leans into the worst aspects of both of those genres. It's a record that continued to leave a shit taste in my mouth anytime that I respun it, and once I reviewed it, I left it far in the rear view with no interest in going back. You want to talk about a bad batch of ideas down to its cover art? This new Voids album is just a dodgy mess. Underproduced slop juxtaposed with hackneyed slop, juxtaposed with the worst kind of vocal work I may have seen Julian deliver across any of the musical projects he's ever been a part of. I don't know what the fuck happened during the creative process of this, but it feels like the laziest version of any kind of band featuring artists with this kind of artistic credit. I'm really blown at how horrible a lot of this sounds, and was shocked to see a group that I honestly thought was riding a pretty good high and an artist who was in a very great creative wave just really wash up some absolutely bottom of the barrel, minimal effort level stuff. Needs to be left in 2024, that's all I'm gonna say.
Think you the shit, bitch? You not even the fault. I be going hard.
You know, when I said I wanted to see Ice Spice do more on a full-length record, Y2K was not what I was hoping for. Instead of trying to branch out and dip into different ideas, or maybe some sort of different lyrical directions, Ice Spice reaffirms that she is a one-trick pony with a one-trick mind doing one-trick shit all the fucking time. I was blown at how many actual poop and butt bars were in this, to the point that this felt like almost a comedy rap album. Sure, its production still feels like it's very much hip and with it, but I just think that the bars on here are fucking horrible. They're laughably bad. It is the kind of full-length debut that, you know, kind of makes sense to some degree if you're coming at it with one angle. I just am honestly kind of shocked that when capitalizing on her fame, Ice Spice doubled down on all of the worst things that were making her music work, to a degree that makes it kind of uncomfortable, pseudo-fetishizing, and creepy. I just don't like some of the realms this album goes into. It gets a peer into an ugly side of music that I just don't want to see any more of. And, like, I'm not vouching for Ice Spice anymore, man. I don't think I'm going to listen to anything else she drops, because Y2K really was that fucking bad. Considering how this era was approached, it was probably always going to end up at this place. The songs on here have such an ugly tapestry with an ugly attitude and just an ugly image that I mean, admittedly, Kanye has made into a full, ugly portrait. That doesn't mean I think it's any good. To see a man who once had such hope and heart in his music just go to the cheapest, easiest routes to spew such vitriolic shit is honestly really sad to see. And I made an effort to not really talk about Kanye much on here, just because, like, bro hates me for no reason, so, like, I'm just not gonna give him the time of day. But, like, if I'm talking about the worst of music that dropped last year, without a doubt, the shit that he's doing on here, and it's sort of a testament to how bad it is, given some of the artists he worked with on here, their talents feel wasted throughout this era. It's really just shocking to see somebody who has been touted as one of the best in his lane, not only just for, like, his rapping, but his sound. To sound this bad when you are a guy who's known to sound holistically pretty good is a true showcasing of how far Kanye fell off this year. Between AI slap in the videos, AI slap in the music, and honestly, it feels like kind of just giving handouts to people just to give people the chance to say that they worked with him, in the case of, like, giving Miles a stage when he honestly deserves better. It is, again, another slap to those people who look up to you in your legacy, man. I don't know. This whole era fueled with vitriol is something I don't think Kanye's done doing, given his new album is going to be called Bully, but barring the subject matter of that, I probably won't talk about it on the channel either, unless it's bad enough to end up on a list like this. I really didn't have any problems nailing down the worst list as far as, like, ranking it goes, but I knew this was going to be at the top the minute I kept hearing the shit from this album and just hearing how bad it sounded. Either way, those are my thoughts on my picks for the worst albums of 2024. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know those thoughts in the comments down below. If you did like this video, give it a like. If you want to see more, consider subscribing. I usually drop 2 to 4 vids a week, but given it's my list week, I do have one more list dropping tomorrow. The big one, my albums of the year list. Hopefully you're excited for that. I'm going to go up and viral rack. You guys have good days, lives, and situations, and I'll see you another day.